Hi everybody, this is Dr. Prier and welcome to Careers in Teaching Physical Education. This is actually just going to be a really quick overview of the chapter and some of the things that you can expect to come out of a career in teaching. And I was a phys ed teacher for several years, and I know that it can be very challenging. There are quite a few things that you are never told about, including that you will be outside in inclement weather, that you will be dealing with kids who have ADHD, ADD, special needs, those who have been involved with injuries, and you need to be able to accommodate all of these people. And so this particular lecture, and very short, is just going to give you some of the information associated with this type of career. And some of the objectives are to find out what this career does, provide some of the exciting research into the field, how to remain current through certifications, etc. Now, one of the things for certification, you do need a state certification, you do need a bachelor's degree, and you also need to pass a state test called the C-BEST or the C-SET, or depending on where you get your degree from, the Praxis 1 and 2. So as we look at the study of physical education pedagogy, pedagogy is really just a fancy name for teaching and methods. So pedagogy or sport pedagogy of physical activity is the study of teaching physical activity. Pretty simple. We know that effective instructors understand their subject matter well and the increased methodologies that come with research and how they are able to also convey that to students depending on what their needs are. Are they special needs? Are they going to be students who are advanced? Or do you have athletes? You have to be able to convey that information to everyone. So someone who has a background in this field, they will be able to answer these types of questions about keeping student attention and how much time you should spend talking versus activity. A standard class for PE is about 50 minutes, and then they have to have about 5 to 7 minutes on the front end to dress and 5 to 7 minutes on the back end to dress. So let's just take the top, and that's around 15 minutes. So you're really only going to have about 35 minutes in a standard PE class. It's only about an hour. 35 to 40 minutes, and some of that has to be spent during warm-up time. So realistically, you're looking at around 20 minutes of active play. So it's important to be able to talk not as much as I do, so just a few minutes, and also to get them to their activity quickly and safely. And that activity time will expand as they become more proficient and as you move along with the unit. Looking at different methods, you have to group by ability levels. You have to not put the strong kids with the weak kids, otherwise everybody will be frustrated. These are just some of the basic methods. And class structure, a very basic structure that I like to follow was warm up, group calisthenics, jog or run, and then activity time. And then I blew the whistle and set them all in the locker room. So it's a very small breakdown. And then, of course, there's always the motivation levels that people will face. And motivation levels can be very high for people who are skilled and very low. And that can also fluctuate between what activity that you're doing. You have kids who are great in basketball, track and field, football, and then they're going to be completely miserable when you do golf and swimming because that's not their strong suit. So for the careers, basically it is going to be PE teacher, coach, YMCA recreational leader. Maybe you want to do corporate fitness or work in a facility that helps employees to stay fit. These are all great methods for a pedagogy expert. And of course, professors and researchers, but you don't really get too many people with a degree in pedagogy who go into research. And so what I'm going to do now is pick and choose from some of these slides. So I want to go to the second bullet, which is the certification. So depending on where you get your degree, you'll have to pass the Praxis 1 or the Praxis 2. If I did my degrees in some areas in Alabama and Chicago, and they don't require the C-SET, which is the California Skills Assessment Test. I probably butchered that acronym, but the California Skills Test is different than the Praxis. And California only accepts their own certification. So depending on where you get your education for this degree, you'll take the Praxis or the C-SET. You'll also have to take the C-BEST and get a California certification. Or if you want to do the National Teacher Certification, that has nationwide reciprocity. But you do have to be familiar with these because you can't teach without a certification. And then we have a couple of things with Shape America. Shape America used to be referred to as AFERD, which was the American Association for Physical Education, Recreation, and Dance. Health, Physical Education, Recreation, and Dance is now called Shape America. And this organization is great for research and for methods and for also ensuring people in the field, because PE teachers get sued a lot. So one of the things that you will have to be required to do as a phys ed teacher is be able to not only keep people engaged, but also to be able to assess them and give them proper feedback. And the assessment can be hard because you're going to get people of all ability levels. Keeping in mind that PE is not about sports. You incorporate sports and different activities, but physical education is more about lifelong fitness versus sports, which are about performance and enhancement and doing basically things that the normal population can't do. So physical education is lifelong fitness, not sport training. When it comes to some of our methods of assessment and feedback, the best thing that I can tell you guys is to provide feedback that is disproportional. And by that, I mean disproportionately positive to maybe a 3-to-1 ratio or 4-to-1 ratio. Kids are going to mess up when they're learning new activities, and important for you to be able to keep that encouragement and motivation strong by giving them that good quality feedback. So when it comes to expertise, though, keeping abreast of the methodologies, you can get that through Shape America, the previous slide. That's going to be also really important. And your experience alone is not sufficient. Collaborating with other professionals is going to be important as well. Also going to conferences, and then learning things through trial and error is probably one of the best ways that you're going to learn certain things in this field. You do have to be familiar with the research and things that work. Remember, when you're dealing with physical ed, there can be up to 50 people in a classroom sometimes, and then you might have a mix of 9th graders through 12th graders, or 6th graders through 9th graders, depending on your levels. In elementary schools, it's even more complicated, because if you have mixed level classes, the learning curve is different for a 3rd grader than it is for a 7th grader or a 6th grader. And so it's hard to find activities that blend both of those. So learning the research and learning different methodologies will be very helpful. I'm going to skip around to some of the boring stuff because it's boring, and also I'm not going to test you on it. Remember that physical activity or kinesiology is the only domain of learning that touches on the affective, which is how you feel, so get into your feelings, the affective, the cognitive, which is skill development based on your function, your brain functionality, your memory. These are where the rules come in, and different types of aspects of like that. Then we have your affective domain, which deals with how you feel and social interaction. And then we have, I said affective, I said cognitive, and psychomotor, which is the movement portion. And that's the really the field that separates us from other domains of learning. So it's really important. You also are going to have a role in someone's GPA, but keep in mind it's not science class. It's a health-based class. So you do want to make sure that you are helping individuals to learn these skills and not necessarily penalizing them because they're not an amazing athlete. So it is based on academic achievement, but you do want to make sure that it is a feasible goal for someone who is not an athlete. So don't test them based on your particular skills as an athlete. The settings, not going to spend too much time here, because really the setting is going to be either inside or outside, at a school, at a YMCA. And those settings can vary based on the size of the environment, the number of people within that environment, the weather. I've been outside to where I turned from this color skin to doggone near this color skin because I was outside all day and my feet glowed in the dark because they were covered by socks and shoes. So that's the type of environment sometimes that you are teaching in, and it can be very stressful if you don't have a high tolerance for heat. And conversely, if you don't have a high tolerance for the cold, then you may also be dealing with some issues related to cold intolerance, and so having to teach in that environment. I'm actually going to skip over this slide too. I want just to get y'all to that the important stuff. So now we have the roles for phys ed teachers and professionals. Standard teaching responsibilities, of course, dealing with problem management, classroom management, kids that be popping off at the lip and if you don't have patience, I don't recommend this field, which is why I got out of it. And then you also have some rewards for outstanding teaching, but let me be real, don't expect that. That's very rare. Teaching is an underappreciated field. Just y'all get into it because you love what you do, not because you're going to get a reward. So that one is like hitting the lottery. But most of the time, you're going to be in a school or a higher education setting, YMCA recreational facility. You might also be a coach because it's very typical for a lot of coaches to have a degree in some sort of physical education, pedagogy, or sport. Now, if you want to do adapted PE, that's where more of the money comes into play. As successful phys ed teachers, we're looking at people who know how to integrate strategies into their curriculum that work, not just doing what the book told you, but adapting those strategies to the students that you have, adapting those strategies to the landscape and the environment, the terrain that you may be teaching in, knowing how to integrate that with other subject matter. So if you're teaching in a primarily Hispanic neighborhood and you're not offering soccer, soccer is a very important sport in that community, as it's the most participatory sport in the United States. So if you're dealing with people from Africa or Brazil or South America or Mexico, or that are heavily based in the Latino culture, and you don't have that in your curriculum, then you may lose some of those students. So you need to be able to integrate activities that are important for the community that you're teaching. And that takes, a little bit of understanding of history and the social and economical constructs, even in some ways political constructs as well. You want to have programs that are going to have administrative support, and you also want to make sure that you have funding for those programs as well. Having said that, funding is usually very small, and whatever the school has is what you're going to be stuck with. We look at after school programs, but that's not really something that y'all have to worry about. Those are optional programs, and a lot of time they can be an extension from the existing phys ed program already. So I really just don't want to stay on some of the boring stuff like Shape America. Y'all can read about that on your own. Now, this is funny to me, the second bullet where it says more schools are adding phys ed to their curriculum. It's a requirement for graduation. And so it's not that more schools are adding, it's you cannot graduate in California unless you have that as part of your curriculum. Okay, so one of the things that you can kind of help motivate some of your students for better participation in PE classes is to help them understand that we're not testing sport skills, and this is lifelong learning. So these skills are going to benefit them in the long run. Students can also get discounted membership fees for a lot of these organizations, and it's a lot cheaper. So that's also a huge benefit. And just being able to remain current in the literature as well, and keeping up with the teaching community and making sure that students have access to resources that will benefit them on the health spectrum is very important. So that's all I got for y'all. I hope that you enjoyed that. I do want to say that teaching, there are so many things that we are never taught in the teaching field that we don't actually learn about until way after the fact. So it's very important that you understand that patience is important. Being able to adopt different methodologies, being able to speak to students who are skilled, uncoordinated, who are shy, who are a combination of all three sometimes, being able to change up the methodologies, and also understanding that progress can be slow, being able to pair by abilities, and also being able to incorporate activities that are important to these kids, not just what you want to do. Knowing that if you don't have a proficiency in a specific area, then it is your responsibility to gain proficiency in order to help that demographic of student out. And then, of course, everybody loves their PE teacher. I got so many gifts when I was a phys ed teacher because we're just the fun teachers. So these are some of the things that I wanted to share with y'all. It is a challenging field, I will say that, because you have to deal with kids who have been stuck in a classroom for 4, 5, 6 hours a day. And then when they finally get to you, they're excited to be moving. So you have to be able to also learn how to manage that energy and that excitement. And then there are the kids who just go act crazy, and we feel like throwing them through the window or over, a bridge somewhere. But I hope that you found this informative, and good luck with your career search. Bye bye now.